welcome to another episode of Kingdom News. I am your host, Gwen Goolsby Tillery, and I have a special co-host with me for this special episode on marriage. I happen to have this wonderful young man seated next to me. I've known him for over 20 plus years. We go back a little bit. Welcome to my co-host position, my husband, Alex Tillery.
Hello, everybody.
So I figured it would be fun since we had the Wallace on to do this as two couples talking about marriage. So for this episode, I have the pleasure of having on Russell and Joni Waller. We have known the Wallers for almost as long as we've kind of known each other. We connected with this wonderful couple through our church. And you'll get to hear a little bit about that as we go through the interview. So I'm so excited to have them on. They are co-authors, co-contributors to the book Through the Fire. They have been married for an extremely long time. And so welcome, Russell and Joni, to Kingdom News.
Welcome.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
We're so happy to be here.
Excited to have you guys on. So just briefly, before we go into the whole marriage and all of that, just tell us briefly a little bit about each one of you. Let's go ladies first and start with Joni.
So I'm an only child and no siblings. So you want to know how I met him, or is that just, or you just want to
just give us a little like, okay, where are you from? Where do you currently reside?
Well, okay, so I am I don't want to call myself a time traveler, but I am, Gwen and Alex know, a New Yorker by trade who started off in the Bronx and went upstate New York to Warwick and stayed up there until I was 7, and then moved down to Princeton and then did my 2nd grade through the rest of the couple of years. Then we moved to Lawrenceville. So I'm a New Yorker, New Jerseyan who who's down here in South Jersey, but still New York is always in my heart.
Yes, we can relate to that. Don't necessarily want to go back, but there's no place like New York.
No place like it.
That's what I think.
So, Russell, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I am the oldest of 5. I have 3 sisters, and I have 1 brother, and we were very, very close in age. And we kind of step right back down. We have myself first, and then, of course, 2 ladies, and then my brother, and then the baby is 6 years between her and my brother. So my parents kind of decided to continue their family a little further. And so we basically grew up as farmers. I grew up in the southwestern part of Virginia, and it's a very over by the Blue Ridge Mountain area over that way in the southern, I guess you would call it, southwest area around Blue Ridge, in that area around Lynchburg. My hometown area is called Danville. Very rural area, very small. The school system was basically a countywide system, not like the townships that we go to now. And we met, Joni and myself. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. She came south to school, and I continued to stay in the south to go to school. We met on the campus of Virginia State University, and that's where it all began.
Okay, so before we get to that, I want to give a little more background about the two of you. So we initially connected. We connected 2 different ways, actually. When we first met, we connected through church, but Russell and I also worked together at the local high school. So we also knew each other through work. And so it was like a dual connection when we first met. So when the opportunity came for us at our church to do study groups. We found out that one of the study groups was going to be presented by the Wallers, and we decided that we were going to participate in their home study group. And that's how we connected. And we've been connected ever since. And it's been really good. So now the study that we were doing is so interesting how God works things, right? The study that we was doing was Rick Warren's Purpose-Driven Life. And so much of that teaching stuck with me. It's still with me. And we were just so grateful, Alex and I, coming from New York, being new down here, really being new to, honestly, the experience of church, especially a big church like that. And you guys, you opened your home and you welcomed us, and you just always just made us feel welcome and felt good. So we thank you and appreciate you guys so much.
You're right. Absolutely right.
So that was our initial connection. So now we're going to fast forward. Oh my gosh, I want to say like 18 years.
Something like that.
It's probably about 18 years. That's a long time. I know how long we've been in Jersey, and we got to St. John about 2 years after. So it's probably 18 years.
We was there for 15 years.
Yeah, that's right. We were at St. John for 15. So yeah, definitely at least 18 years. So now we're going to move over 18 years. When I decided that I wanted to do this collaboration through the fire, I knew that one of the topics that I wanted to tackle was marriage. Alex and I, along with you two, were able to participate in the marriage ministry, at St. John. And we know the importance of being able to come together as couples, to be able to learn and grow and have fun. So we've always been excited about that. So when I thought about a fun-loving couple who had been married for a long time and who I thought would be real honest and transparent and have fun with this, you guys, you came to mind. And so that's how they became a part of the Through the Fire project. So now we're going to get started. We get to really start digging in and asking you some questions. So first, tell us, now you can tell us about how you guys met.
Okay. Well, before we start that, I just wanted to say, because we were talking about how we met you guys, and I don't know if you would remember, even though we kind of separated churches at one point, and I would always run into you, and we would always be talking about marriage again. And I'm like, when? Marriage ministry. And so that was another way that we just kept connecting. And even with Alex, I would see him at the gym all the time. So God always he was like, I'm not letting y'all go from me. But,
you stay connected.
So now you want to know about us, how we met.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, because
I started it. I think I jumped ahead. I didn't mean to fast forward so fast. But anyway, as I said, Joni went south to go to her school, which her choice was Virginia State University. I was a transfer in from a smaller school in the South to Virginia State. So I transferred in my sophomore year, and at the end of my sophomore year. And so I really enjoyed Virginia State a lot more. And that was one of the reasons I transferred, because first of all, the program was a little bit bigger because it was a bigger school. And then also it was just more activities, more things going on there because it was a bigger school. You're talking about, say, 1,000 students versus, say, 5,000 students. And so I came to Virginia State, and out of all the people on the campus, lots of young ladies.
I was waiting for you to tell that part.
lots of young ladies. You were like, looking around. And so fall is really, really on the historical, the HBCU campuses is really, really important. To make a long story short, And when you come on the campus, the band is there, the football team. The band is more important than the football team. No, football. That's the reason we do the football. And then, of course, you got all types of other sports activities thing. But the football is big because that pulls everybody in together. Because the alumni comes back for homecoming. And so this particular time, I had a chance during the homecoming to be able to kind of be milling around on campus, because you would go to the game sometime, but you wouldn't really stay or whatever. But I enjoyed the games. So of course, this particular time I went, and we went up on what they call the block, where everybody did their stepping and all the sororities and fraternities. And so I had opportunity to just visually looking and checking, looking around. And so probably one of the most noticeable young ladies I saw was my wife. I didn't realize the time would be my wife, would be Joni. And so I, immediately I was interested, but I didn't really know how to approach her. I didn't know who she was and nothing. And so I began through the fraternity, I knew some of the guys that knew some more of the ladies, and that's how we made connections. And we began to talk. And so I found out later she was dating somebody. And so I was like, oh boy, that my heart kind of sunk. And so not realizing that was on the way out, And so I found out later, I was glad it was on the way out. And so it gave me a chance to talk. So we began to meet at different places. And then I just began to just show up wherever I knew I'd already looked at her schedule. I found her schedule down on that, and I knew where she would be. And I would just show up at those locations.
Wait a minute. So you were like almost like an undercover stalker?
Undercover stalker. I didn't want to put that, but I
it's called paying attention to detail. I understand.
Exactly. That's what it is.
He left out a detail. The detail was he came up there to Virginia State. He was at St. Paul, the little school, came up there on the hill, saw 100 million girls. And his head was rolling around like that doll thing like this. And I don't know how it just spun to me, I guess. And then he didn't, I don't know. I guess we were stepping on the block, but my best friend, Evelyn, is an alpha angel. And that's how he knew her. And then he was like, how
I got to her, Joni.
It got to me, but it wasn't because of me in the beginning. It was because his head was spinning around from going from one.
Well, it must have been something, because he stopped when he got to you, and so he stopped when he got to you, and at some point it moved from you guys just dating on campus to getting married. So, how long have you guys been married?
We've been married going on 41 years.
Yes,
I approached him at the table. I have to leave. He left that out too. he was stalking me through her, but and my girlfriend told me that he liked me, so I went and sat at the table where he was eating breakfast.
Because I would be right there at lunch and for breakfast.
But I'm like, I'm gonna call his bluff, so I'm gonna go and sit down at the table, and I think it's a shock.
It did kind of surprise me.
But anyway, we have been married 40. We're going on 41.
41 years. This coming August 15th.
That's a long time. So that was one of the reasons why I really was looking forward to you guys being a part of this project, because in this day and age, to make even 4 years is quite a bit. So 40 plus years is like, that God had to be all in the mix of it. So I approached you guys about writing this book. And what was your initial response? Be honest and be transparent.
Well, myself, I was like, oh man, here's some more work for me to do. That was the first thing I thought about. I was like, oh man, I don't have time. I didn't retire to be doing all this different types of work. That was the first thing, just to be honest. That's the way I felt about it. And so Joni was really excited about it, because she had always, as she said earlier about the marriage situation, she wanted a platform to be able to help couples over some of the hurdles that they go through as newly married couples, and later on in life as couples, problem solving, being able to reconcile differences. There are just so many various things that happen that can really spin you up or down or spin you out of control. So she really was, she just wanted to do that. And I was kind of like, well, we're doing all right. We don't really need that, So
I was honored. I was honored that you asked us to be a part of it and to be transparent, because I thought through the transparency, we'd be able to help somebody else not struggle as we had to struggle.
But her main thing too, she was saying, well, I don't really know whether we are able to, we can't really teach that because we don't have it together ourselves. I said, well, Joni, if we don't have it together, then if we had everything perfect, then it would be no need of really us sitting in a class or doing anything. We wouldn't have to ask God for anything if we already had it all together. And that was her constant thing about, I feel like, I don't know whether we can do that because we don't have this together and we don't have together. I said, well, that's what we hope to do. That's why we're in the class.
But writing actually made us closer, and it made us be able to communicate about some things that we had not talked about.
Exactly.
Some things that came out through the years, and it was like, oh, I didn't know you felt like that, or I didn't know this happened, or so it was a good tool, a good healing tool for us as well.
It pulled the covers back off for things that you cover up, because you cover up things so easily and so smoothly. You think you cover them up, but it's always there. It's just a matter of it being uncovered. And once it's uncovered and it's out in the open, you can kind of deal with it better. You can't deal with it when it's still covered up.
Yeah, that's so important, for marriage and life in general. We want to just cover things up. We don't want to deal with it. But the reality is that we're dealing with it even when we're choosing not to deal with it, because it's present. It's present. You're just ignoring it, but there's a consequence to it. And there's a consequence to you not dealing with it. So Joni, we already know you were kind of excited. You were honored. You were like, okay, I'm ready to do this. So this is how the process kind of went. So we started out where I kind of just gave some general guidance and direction on what I was looking for. One of the things that I wanted from each one of the contributing authors was a genuine and authentic story, because I just feel like people really can overcome by the testimony of others, that you can really learn. And, if nothing else, you realize that, what, I'm not in this by myself. So I didn't want stories that were going to necessarily be all cute and fluffy and nice. I wanted stories that were going to really have impact and come from the heart. So when Russell and Joni gave me their first draft, I said, what is this? Are they the Huxtables? I was like, this is not what I expected. Share with us how that, why was it that was what you in the beginning, like what was your thought process when you initially started writing?
How transparent we needed to be. And to be honest with you, even as we have still gone through this process, and after we finished, we realized that we could have still been a little bit more transparent, but it was, you're protecting yourself in a sense, like you're protecting your, what's the word I want to use?
I'm trying to think of
cocooning your relationship. You don't want, how vulnerable, that's a good word. How vulnerable do you really want to be, and letting everybody open up, like Russell said, pulling back the covers. So that was kind of where we were in terms of how are we going to write this in terms,
because you are trying to see how, as Joni was saying, how far you want to go with pulling the covers back. Do you just want to take the cover off your neck, or do you want to completely pull the cover back to your feet? That's what you want to do. And you have a tendency to stay in the same churchy mode that what some of your older people would say. Well, you're supposed to be married for this amount of time. You're not supposed to have any problems. You're not supposed to be transparent. And what's in your home stays in your home.
Stays in your home.
And those types of old cliches that you hear all the time.
But then that's not helping anybody.
But you're not helping the little couple that's really struggling, who could make it if you were honest with them. But if you don't because people feel like when they see you, the number one thing when you're smiling, just like we're doing now, they think that they really got it all together. I just I'll never be able to reach that goal, and you're kind of giving them a facade if you don't tell them how you were able to smile, because you didn't just start off from the whole beginning smiling.
No.
You know, and you don't smile all the time now, because there's always a difference. You know,
we don't have 40 years in. We'll be going on 20 in August. So something else we have in common, our anniversary month. We're both August. But listen, right before we got on here, we were going at it.
you have to get things straight. No.
You know, truth be told, you know, so you're going to always have those moments. And I know people probably look, but as I said to you, I just said to you earlier or yesterday, Joni, you know, it's only God's grace. It is only God's grace and our willingness to honor, you know, that the vows and, you know, try to honor each other and respect each other, that we're still in it, because it's not that we've been problem free. We've had our share of problems. We just decided not to let the problems have us.
Amen.
That's true. And I think for us, Gwen, to be very honest and transparent as well, we both had two praying mothers, because there was at one point where I was going my way and he was going his way. And
as fast as we could.
Yeah, our mothers got together. And that's the one thing I can really say, that if you have if you can marry into a family where the families get along, that's a good thing. Because I had kind of said, okay, I can't stay in Virginia any longer. And I came on back to New Jersey, and my dad was like, he thought I was on vacation and for a week, and it started turning into 2 weeks. And then there's 3 weeks. And he was like, well, when you going back to Virginia? And I'm like, I'm not going back to Virginia. And then he was like, oh, Maddie, she's not going back. And my mom got on the phone and called his mom. So that's why I said, when you have two praying mothers that will bring it together and keep you guys on your knees, it's the grace of God, honestly. Because
my mother actually called Joni's mom. I found out later, and then they talked. They had a very, very, very good conversation, and they always prayed for us anyway. We didn't even realize they were praying for us, and so my mother, you know, she had a kind way of saying something, and guys are very kind of favor of their mothers more so than dads. We love dads too, but we really favor their mothers. And so she said, boy, you got to go and get your wife. And so I was looking at her like, what do you mean? My wife is still with me. She just was in New Jersey. I was in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And I didn't know, I tried to play it off like I didn't know what she was talking about. But she's talking to me on the phone. She said, you got to go get your wife, just like that. She said, what are you doing this weekend? Go get your wife, just like that. And so I'm still thinking, like, how did she know that? I didn't realize they were communicating. Never thought about them communicating, because I thought I had the wife, I had the daughter, and they were in their house and I was in my house or our house. And so that's all I thought about, you know. And so I figured, you know, after she cooled off a little bit, she would come back. And but she wasn't coming back. And so I did go up that weekend, and I did go up and get her. And
so Joni, tell us, first of all, you guys were very young. So you got married pretty much right out of college. You were 22?
22,
I
21.
just turned 22 the month before. I was 21 still.
21, and Russell, how old were you? 22. So 21 and 22-year-olds, you guys get married. So Joni, you end up, you get married, and you're down in Virginia. You're a city girl. You're like, okay, I'm down here. What were some of the struggles as a newlywed couple that was young? What were some of the struggles, and what made you want to go back home to mom?
Well, mom and them. One of the things is my family's very family oriented. So when I would call home, my whole family would be there. And that's what I grew up with. Either we were all my dad's family on one weekend or my mom's family on the weekend. So when I would call home, I could hear all my aunts, my cousins, everybody, they were all together laughing. And so I started getting homesick. And one of the reasons is Russell, see, I thought that, and I don't even know if I ever said this to you, Gwen. When I came out of college, I was supposed to remember that girl, or they used to come on TV. I don't know if y'all are old enough for that. It was Marlo Thomas, and she used to throw the hat up in the air. Okay, yeah, I'm older. Okay, Marlo Thomas used to.
We're like, huh?
It was called That Girl.
It was called That Girl. And so that was what I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be coming back home, going to New York, and getting a job and throwing my hat up in the air like that. Living a single life. He caught me. So the whole thing was, we got married. I'm still young. We weren't in a place where I thought what young people would be, like an apartment. We didn't live in an apartment. We lived in a house because he wanted to live. He put me in a farmhouse. So
the rent was good
because the rent was $100.
All right, the people at church.
The rent was $100.
They were happy.
But I loved him, so I was going along with whatever he said. If he said let's live in the shoebox, I would have said all right. Until I figured I can't get out of the shoebox. So anyway, he was going on along, just working. He had found a friend that he was a little older than him. He was an undertaker. Mortician. Russell was doing his thing with him. Not realizing, I think, that he had a young wife, and that
my mother told me.
We were supposed to be a young married couple, and he was more settled, and I wasn't settled like that. So because he was going on doing his thing, and I was just coming home from going teaching and then coming back home and being bored by myself, then that's where the loneliness set in, and I needed to come back.
And then we, addition to that, we were able to build, in our 3rd year marriage, we built a new home, and I just knew that was it. I said, oh, she'll definitely stay now. And she wasn't even thinking about the home, because by then had really lost the taste of Virginia. We were in Fredericksburg. She had lost the taste of it because it was it was kind of being developed like Mount Laurel used to be here, and she was done. Right. And it mattered not what the house was, And so when she left, she wasn't even interested in no more.
And I think because we didn't make we make a whole lot of money at that time. I needed to come home more, and I don't think Russell understood that I needed to come home more. And I probably would have stayed in Virginia, maybe if I had been able to transition better. But that was when you missed it, as a couple. Once again, me not talking about it, him going on, not realizing it. So
thinking I'm doing the right thing because I'm providing for my family, which at that time was just Joni and I. We didn't have children. Right. We didn't have children for the first 5 years we were married. And so the house was lonely for her, I didn't realize that, but I had a very good friend. The one friend that was the mortician, we went everywhere. We did all types of stuff, because and I was leaving her out. The main person I was supposed to have been providing and taking care of, I was leaving her out.
And but so, we didn't do things like young couples do. We didn't date night. We didn't go to the movies.
We didn't travel.
We didn't do the things that we got jumped into
real
old married
life
too early.
Right. Was that, Russell, do you think some of that was learned behavior from seeing how, your parents kind of did things?
Most definitely. Yes. Yeah. It was just learned behavior. I didn't know it was no other way. My dad was a hard worker, and my mom worked hard. So to have something, you wanted something, you wanted a home. That's what you wanted. I didn't want to live in an apartment. I told Johnny from the start with, I didn't want it really. And she wanted to be in an apartment because I didn't realize the importance of by being in an apartment, you're able to see other couples that look like you, or more couples that are going to look like you. You're going to bump into them because that's where they're going to be. But you're not going to see them in single family homes after 3 or 4 years of marriage. You might see them 10 years later,
And I think for me, my parents built a house, but I was 10. So we lived in an apartment until I was about 10 years old, moving from different places. So I where Russell was ready to just get a house right away, I saw a different transition of how you get to that stage. Not my like I said, my parents were older when we really lived in a house, when we, they built their house, and so I just saw different transitions. So there was a lot of I don't even want to say, we didn't communicate. What young couples need to do is, the other thing is, we didn't have marital counseling, the things that people talk about now, finances, communication, where you want to live, budgeting. Do you want children right away? All of those things are important. We didn't have that. So it was like a struggle of trying to find each other out and find ourselves out.
I just started to say, right, because you were so young, you were still trying to figure out who you were, while still trying to figure out who this person is that I just married and committed to spending the rest of my life with. So at some point, obviously, you guys moved to New Jersey.
After 4 years of being in Virginia. We were married 4 years, and Joni couldn't take it anymore.
So you were in Virginia for 4 years. At this point, when you decide to move, is it because, Joni, you just decide, like, listen, I just need to let him know?
So
when she came home, and I went back home, that was one of the agreements.
See, here we go. Once again, not communicating. I didn't tell. I was one of these. He's supposed to know. I'm supposed to, osmosis wise, he's supposed to know how I feel. I don't have to tell him, because we love each other. He's supposed to know.
Catch the signal
that I'm not happy. He's supposed to know that when I came to New Jersey, I wasn't coming back.
And yet I was very happy, because I'm country at heart. I'm fishing. I'm doing things. I had a garden.
All those things.
I was busy. Had a little part-time business.
So to answer your question, really, no, we hadn't communicated that about him understanding that it wasn't how we got up here. How we got up here, and once again, our mothers talking to each other, and he said to me, if I find a job up here, then I'll move up here. He was praying he didn't find a job.
I sure was. And the first place I interviewed.
But I do have to say, yeah, he did. And so on one hand, those 4 years, you had an unhappy wife. Then we move up here and we have an unhappy husband.
So we changed places. Because it was totally different from what like you said, the learned behavior that I had acquired for a married couple was totally different here than what it was in because the northern quarter is more of it's not as, people are friendly, but they're not like they are in the South. The Southerners are more friendly. If they got something, they got a tomato, you got a tomato. It's not like that in the North. I'm not saying everybody, but just as an example.
I think the other thing is, if we were both five hours from our families, so we were about an hour from DC, right? So had we maybe done some things like going into the city,
like the young
couples, I probably would have been able to adapt a little bit more, because honestly, we were right in the center of both of our families,
But we missed that opportunity because once I got away from I like Gwen said right from the beginning, that wasn't what I saw as a married couple. I didn't see being in the city, being in an apartment. I didn't see that. I saw houses. That's what I saw. I saw space and land. I didn't see being in a closed-in place. And so I didn't even really want to visit the city. I was so naive to it. I wasn't even interested. I was fine where it was nice and quiet. I was fine.
So Joni, how did you deal with that, with Russell being unhappy?
Well,
she didn't care. She didn't care. She did not care, Alex.
That's what you felt like that. because I felt like that when I was in Virginia.
Yeah, she thinks, yeah.
So actually, I don't know if I felt so much about your feelings. Did I?
No,
I don't know. I think we had a kid right after a while. A kid came in there and
Brittany kind of smoothed that over.
Yeah, she smoothed that over. Although it still was
it's a burr in the south.
It was a burr in the south. Yeah, is that the right word? A burr, whatever the thing is. It was still like It
was always a
because he would make little snide
digs,
remarks.
always digs.
Like if I was in Virginia,
throwing shade. What the kids say, throwing shade.
Yeah, every time the rent would go up or something, I said, "See, we own the house now. Here we got."
Yeah, because see, that was the whole catalyst of the whole thing.
We stayed in the house 7 months.
Had we not, we built a brand new house from the stick up, like ground up.
Picked out the
and
things
so that
everything.
So he was really like, you made me move up here. And
then I got to come and rent a place, and the rent was higher than my mortgage there.
Yeah, and so it was kind of like, well, see, if we had, we had a house, and so it was still a transition. He's still doing pretty good. He's handling it better than
you learn to dig in.
But you know what though, and so as I'm listening to you guys speak, what I hear in this is that communication with your husband, wife, with your spouse is so important. We can't make assumptions about anything because Russell, you assumed, you know what, I'm being a good husband. You know, you were probably taught, you know, as a husband, you be a provider. If you're a provider, then you've done what you're supposed to do. So you provided. You listen. You know how many women would be happy that, you know, they married this man and he went and he had this house built from the ground up, you know, and every little detail you could watch it be built. But for Joni, that wasn't what she needed. And the only way for you to know that would have been for you guys to communicate. So what people can take away from this is not to make any assumptions about anything, that you really need to have these conversations prior to getting married so that you can understand what is it that makes your spouse tick, you know, what is it that your spouse enjoys? What is it your spouse likes to do? Because we can't take that stuff for granted. Russell, without even knowing your mom, I guess she was probably more of a homemaker, maybe. She was, you know, more low key. She enjoyed being home. She probably enjoyed baking the cake and all of that. Now, Joni, I know you do bake too, but you was like, no, but I need to get out too. I need to have fun. So I say all of this to say is there's some things that we can learn from the examples that we have coming up. But the most important thing is to really be in communication with your spouse so that you can understand what it is that they desire, who they are, and what makes them happy, not based on generalities.
I think the other thing is sometimes we as women, we tend to go along with and not really, like you said, communicate. But sometimes it's like, for me, it was, I was timid about speaking my mind to him. I don't even know why as I got older. I guess, you know, having to grow, like I always say, you grow in the marriage and grow up in the marriage. So I had to grow up in the marriage and get my voice and, you know, realize that I do have a voice and he didn't know anything if I didn't speak it, you know, and I was saying, I know one part in the book, I was talking about the ice cream and I really wanted some ice cream and I didn't tell him. I told him, I was like, there's an ice cream truck. And he was like, oh, okay. But I didn't say to him, I want some ice cream, you know? So those are some things that I'm saying. You really have to
be clear.
Yeah. And not be afraid to talk to your spouse about the things.
Because she did sometimes, I sensed that she was kind of like afraid to say something that she desired or that she wanted. And I was kind of wondering, like, why, you know, because we're in this together. But I never realized I didn't even stop to really ask. I didn't even ask, you know, If she didn't say anything about it, well, hey, she didn't say anything. But it's just one of those things. Just the communication breakdown. When your communication breaks down, it creates and leaves a lot of situation open for problems, and that's one thing for the young couples. I think they experience a lot of, and any newly married couple can experience is that communication breakdown. It doesn't have to be a young couple because you're used to doing things on your own and being your own person and doing things that you like to do because you're really you're not. I don't like to say you're selfish, but you just do what pleases you. And you get used to doing that. It doesn't take long to get used to doing that. You spend your money on yourself. You buy the things you want to go. You eat the dinners you want to eat. You do what you want to do. You travel where you want to travel.
He had a year to do that. I didn't.
He
came out of school a year ahead of me.
Okay.
So he lived on his own. He had his own apartment. He had what I needed to settle myself down into. I came from school back to home, back to marriage. So I never had that independence by myself time.
Which you find is in John's case, it was very important. And I think in most people's case, it's very important. They feel like maybe they miss some if they don't have that independence, that point of independence.
And I just want to touch back to what you said, Joni. I agree with the speaking up and expressing yourself and things like that. But I want to speak from a male perspective as well. Us too, we have to be more, I guess, more expressing our feelings with our spouse because men too tend to go along with things because that cliche happy wife, happy life. At the same time, we push ourselves and our feelings to the side just to make sure our wife is happy. But in marriage, as I'm still learning, 20 years going in, we still have to make each other happy. It's not, or it's like your spouse and yourself need to be happy. So it's not just, okay, I'm going to make sure she's happy only. And then I have to just push suppress my feelings or things like that. And most men feel that way because they, again, it's learned behavior of what they was taught. Like the wife, you got to make sure the wife is completely happy.
Exactly.
But they don't think about themselves as well. And the same thing for the female. They taught the same way, make sure they take care to their husband and make sure he's well. But then they push themselves away, then they lose their identity. So
that is true. The word identity, and that is something. And something Russell said to me, which really made me it made like the light went off for me to just become my own independent self. I think at one point I was always saying to him, I want something, or I wanted him to do something for me, and he got, I guess, kind of frustrated in a sense. And he said, I can't make you happy. You have to make yourself happy. That was because I was depending on him in a sense to make for my happiness. And when he said that, it was kind of like freedom to me. It was freedom to me. Like, okay, I don't really need, because we would, in even the smallest things, like if I wanted to get something in the house, I would say, well, what do you think about? I'm thinking about buying such and such. And he would be like I had to have his approval, which I really didn't. And so, but he would never say to me, I'm thinking about such and such. It would just be here. It would just, I bought this. So that's when he said that to me, I can't make you happy. You have to make yourself happy. I was like, thank you, Lord, because now I can go. I don't have to talk to you about nothing. This is going to show up in the house. No, but it really, I think it maybe took some pressure off of him, and it surely opened up some.
That was the day she got her independence.
I just started to say, you said independence. You say independence, but I was thinking, to go back to what Alex was saying about identity, it's becoming it's knowing who you are. It's extremely difficult to make a marriage work when you come into it and you're unsure of who you are. When you don't know what your expectations are and you don't know really what your likes and your dislikes are. It is very challenging when you come into a marriage and now you want someone else to make you happy. No. They can't make you happy.
Mhm.
You have to be happy. You have to know who you are.
Right.
You have to know what it is that you want, what you desire, and what you like, which is why those conversations need to take place prior to getting married.
True.
Because look, you don't want to find out after the fact, which unfortunately happens in so many cases. Wow, you know what? We're not on the same page about anything.
Not at all.
Exactly.
Not at all.
Mhm.
Even though you guys have had some differences, you had a really good core foundation of what you believed in terms of marriage. But it is extremely difficult if you're coming in from totally opposite spectrums and ends, and then your core is not in sync either. So it's really important to have those conversations prior to getting married, to really know who you are, because it causes a whole lot of confusion and frustration when you come into a situation expecting someone else to help you to figure out who you are and make you happy, when that responsibility is really on you. And
I kind of remember when she, like you say, began to identify who she was. And it was kind of like I was looking at her like, you used to didn't say nothing about that. Now all of a sudden, like, why are you changing up on me? That's why I was as you were saying that, I was thinking about that. I remember that. I remember the times when she gradually took those steps to find out who she was. And it was like really an eye opener for me. It was like, wow,
and that's the one thing I was saying. I would say even men or women, you really need to start off in like you were saying, all of those things need to be discussed, because you really need to start off how you want to continue and hold on, because it is an eye opener for that person who's been saying, well, we've been fine all of this time. Why are you switching up all of a sudden?
You get new on me,
and I don't. It's not that's not fair to that person. It's just that they don't. You're changing, and that's what we're supposed to do. I mean, honestly, I would not want to still be the same 21-year-old Joni that I am now.
Absolutely. And that, I was listening to, I don't remember exactly how he said it, but Pastor Darius Daniels was doing a whole session around love, and he spoke specifically about marriage and how, there's certain qualities that you need to have, when coming into a marriage. There's certain qualities that you should be looking for. And he spoke to this, and I don't remember the exact wording he used, but he talked about you have to have like a resilience to be able to still love as the person changes and grows. Because the reality is that if Alex was the same as he was 20 years ago, that's a problem. If I'm the same as I was 20 years ago, that's a problem. And so the love has to be the love of the core of the person, but also the person that they're becoming, because that becoming also should be beneficial to your marriage, because it's growth, it's maturity. So now it might cause a little discomfort for a little while, because you're like, oh, this is a little different. But on the flip side, it should cause some excitement, because you should be like, okay, let me find out, what? Oh, I didn't know that she had that in her. Or what? I didn't know that he had that in him. And so instead of us being so easily offended by every little thing, which is something that often happens, we need to look at it from the perspective of, wow, this okay, this is something new. Let me kind of step back and see where this is going and try to understand it. And that's where communication once again comes in, so that again, you're not easily offended, you're not worried, you're not concerned, because a lot of times when we see changes, it makes us uncomfortable. It makes us very uncomfortable when we begin to see the change. So time is ticking. So I want you guys to give us a few tips. So in the book, you end out with keys to communication, because I think if you've heard anything in this interview, you know that the key to a successful marriage or any successful relationship is communication. So what are some of the key tips, tools, information as it relates to communication? I'm looking, one of the things here is pray before you have a discussion. So give us some more things. Start with that, and how did that pray before you have a discussion make so much sense? But talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, so I think for both of us, we would always kind of like just the discussion would be coming out, and then even though we grew up, we met y'all in church, we grew up in church, but that wasn't when you're in a conversation. Sometimes you're not thinking about praying as you are maturing in the marriage. You're just trying to get something straight, and as you mature in Christ, okay, before I bring this because I have brought this to him before, it didn't work out that well. He brought it to me before, it didn't work out that well. I was like, boom, okay. So maybe we need to maybe Lord, we need to turn to you first before we bring some stuff to each other. And so if there's an issue that I need to talk to him about, we've been married for 40 years. I know how he's going to respond. So, and he knows how I'm going to respond. So sometimes it's like, Lord, I need to pray with you. I need to hear from you before I bring it to him. Because first of all, I might not need to bring it to him right now. So God, you have got to tell me when is the best time to bring it to him. When is the best time for him that he's going to hear me and listen to me. He might not hear me when we're sitting at the dinner table because he's hungry right now.
Right. Or he might not hear you in a few minutes while he's getting ready to go and watch that game.
Exactly.
So listen, that's key. So wives, younger wives that have been married, listen, let the men have their game time. I'm actually a wife that can sit and enjoy sports with my husband. I'm really a big football fan. I mean, we can talk football. I can talk about some stuff when it comes to football. Basketball, I'm getting a little bit more knowledgeable because, that is what he coaches. So I'm like trying to understand it more. But I'm looking forward to the game, and watching Golden State. But, sometimes, as women, we feel like, we taking a back seat. Let them enjoy their game. That's not the time to try to have a conversation with them. It's like your husband trying to have a conversation with you in the midst of, I don't know, you getting your manicure, your pedicure, something that you enjoy doing. So we've got to respect each other's time and space. And like you said, know when it's the right time to communicate. Right. And prayer is key to the marriage. Praying about the marriage, praying for the marriage, praying for our spouse, praying for ourselves, so that when we move throughout the marriage, we're doing it in a way that would be pleasing to God. If we would just take more time and do that, to really pray and seek God, we would be in a better position. I'm being honest. I know I would. And, 40 years in, we don't do that consistently, but I can say the more that we do it, the better our relationship will be. Because when we look to God to be in the midst of it, we know that he's going to make it right. So I want to close with that. But before we end, please share how people can get in contact with you. I know your website will be launching soon. So give us your website information and, where people can find you on social media, that kind of stuff.
So right now we're getting ready to launch, www.realmaritalconversations.com. Right now, Joni Waller's on Facebook, Russell Waller's on Facebook. I do have a YouTube channel, but that's for a different platform. But that's my baking. That's my baking channel. But anyway, Through the Fire. Can I hold the book up? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
We stuck Russell had our seconds. I don't know. Is it coming backwards to you guys?
It always, when you hold it that way.
For some reason.
No, it's fine.
That's
Okay.
fine. Okay.
Anyway, yes. Right now, until we get really running the way we want to run, they can get us on Square. They can order the book that way, but through our Facebook page, Johnny Waller, Russell Waller.
Amen.
All right, before we close out, we have 60 seconds. So 60 seconds. Give us some closing advice as married couples.
Just love each other. Love each other. Love every day. Say good things. Keep good things in the forefront, because you're going to always have the things that are negative. Just keep good things. When you think of something bad, say something good. Just switch it up.
And I think the other thing is that we forget to do as couples is touch each other. You know, because that's very important.
Very important.
It really is important to touch each other.
I'm a touchy person.
It
I'm a
really
very touchy
is.
person.
You know, because sometimes I saw something on Facebook real quick where the wife, I think it was the first year, the husband kept touching her, right? And she was following him. Then the second year she followed him. Oh, by the fifth year, she was like, why are you touching me? So it's important for us to continue to keep that, you know, that fire
burning.
Yeah, that fire burning. Plus those endorphins, all of that's important. We don't realize that we're giving off those love signals by touching.
That's the language, the love language.
That's good, right? And that is one of the love languages. So real quick, if you as a married couple has never taken the love language quiz, I highly suggest that you go and you take that. You can find it online. Just search love language quiz and it will come up. It is very revealing. It will explain a lot. So listen, we thank you for being on. This was, I enjoyed doing this with my co-host and husband. We love you guys. We are looking forward to all that God is going to be doing through you and with you in terms of marriages. So thank you for being a contributor to the book. And just thank you guys for almost 20 years of friendship and fellowship.
Yes, we do. We really appreciate it. We're so glad. I often tell you, Gwen, we're so thankful that God brought you into our life and keeps you in there. You and Alex both.
Definitely. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you
for being the friends
and
that
thank
you
you
are.
for inviting us to this platform.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do feel much better about doing the book now. I really loved it. It was a great experience for me. And like Johnny said, it was like almost like a healing for us.
Really. Because I said to him, one day I said, hello, I'm Mrs. Waller. And he said, hello, Mr. Waller. And that we started again, you know, starting a new relationship. So
yes.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.